Fresh and
All right, welcome back to another episode of Fresh and Buds. I'm your host, Tommy Fresh. You guys are my buds. And you can call me Tom, you can call me Tommy, you can call me Fresh, you can call me Tommy Fresh. You guys can call me whatever you want. And hopefully I see some of you in Orlando this weekend, if you're listening to this on time, which I put it out on Thursday nights. I'll be getting there on Friday, and I'll be there all weekend. I'm partaking in the calling. I won't be partaking in nationals because, let's face it, I'm a little bit of a scrub right now. I didn't qualify for nationals, but hopefully next season. But I'll be enjoying myself, hopefully meeting a lot of people and having a good time at the calling itself in that event. And, you know, we're going to tie some of this week's topic to United States Nationals. We're going to talk a little bit UK Nationals, the decks that we saw, what performed well, what converted well into the second and third day, and we're gonna kind of dissect that a little bit. I'm not really going to get into the drama around the UK Nationals. You know, I can't really say much on it. So, you know, if you guys want my opinion, obviously reach out to me on Twitter at FreshBudsPod on Twitter, and you can email me at freshbudspod@gmail.com. Also, just something I forgot to announce last week, I have a Discord. I started a Discord. You can find it in my link tree, which will be in the show notes. It's in the bio of my Twitter. And yeah, we only got a couple of members, you know, just people who happen to just check out the link tree. But, you know, we want to grow it. We want to talk about flesh and blood. We'll talk about whatever food. It doesn't matter. We're going to hang out there. I feel like it would be a good place for people to hang out and talk flesh and blood, you know, pretty, you know, open kind of spot for people. I keep it pretty relaxed. I keep it pretty chill. You know, obviously be respectful in there, and hopefully I see some of you guys in the Discord. But yeah, if you want to talk about the drama around the UK Nationals, which, you know, I won't beat around the bush. There's some cheating allegations with Matthew Folks, the guy who won the tournament, and he's had some prior issues, I think is a good way to put it in Magic the Gathering, which is where he came from, where a lot of people in Flesh and Blood came from. So if you want to talk about that there, we can talk about it there. But we're going to talk mainly in this episode about decks, what performed well, which heroes perform well. And then I want to talk about, and it's going to sound crazy, I'm going to talk a little bit about nutrition and how nutrition can affect your, you know, not overall nutrition, but like eating the meal you eat the night before a tournament is pretty important on how your brain works the next day. And I want to talk about that. And I want to talk about, you know, snacks and stuff like that. But I feel like there's a lot of content out there about, you know, what to bring as snacks during the day. But I don't know if I've really seen, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if I've really seen a lot of content that's talking about what you should eat the night before, because in Flesh and Blood, it's a game of small hedges, and having a small hedge from your diet the night before is something that, you know, is worth at least talking about. So we're going to get into that, but we're going to get to the decks first. But before all of that, we're gonna do a Crack-A-Pack, and I have a unlimited Crucible Vor pack. We're going to see how that goes. Hopefully, it's something good, you know, for the giveaway, but we'll see how that goes. I did open a case, and I haven't posted the video yet, but I did open a case of Crucible Vor Unlimited, and you guys can see how that went. I was very tired in the video, so I don't know how I'm going to edit it to make it seem like I'm not tired, or I might just like put it out there and say, hey, tired dude opens box of Flesh and Blood. So we'll see how that goes. But this is a brand new box of Crucible of War Unlimited, and let's see what we get. if I can, these packs are really hard to open. Actually, I've found, which I talk about in that video, which will be on my YouTube, along with this episode. All right, here we go. So I guess I can't really talk about I can't talk about these cards as I would pick them in limited, because Crucible of War wasn't made for limited. It's just a supplemental set. And yeah, let's start it off. We got Overblast, a mechanologist. I'm getting really good. Let me just say, next little aside, I'm getting a lot better at saying mechanologist since I started this podcast, because I remember the first couple episodes, I was having a tough time. But I'm getting there. Mechanologist. Anyway, so this is yellow Overblast. 2 costed, 4 attack, 3 defense. It gains plus X, where X is the number of times you've boosted this combat chain. I'm not too familiar with Dash. I've lost to it. I haven't really looked into it. It's not my kind of deck. I don't know how much play this sees, but I imagine maybe the red would probably be a 5 attack for 2, which isn't terrible. But it doesn't boost itself. Interesting. We have another mechanologist card. This is another attack. This is the blue Combustible Courier. It's a 2 costed, 2 attack, 3 defense card. It has boost, and if it hits, the next attack you boost this combat chain gains plus 3 attack. It's pretty good. In the mechanologist deck, if you're trying to boost, more than you are, hitting with pistols and stuff. I imagine the red one's where you want to be, because it's more likely to hit, because it's, off, just guessing, I would imagine it hits for 4 as a 4 attack if the blue's 2. Yeah, but pretty solid card. Next, we got Sleep Dart. This is the red one. It has 5 attack, 3 defense. It's an arrow for you Ranger fans out there. If Sleep Dart hits a hero, they lose all hero card effects and activated abilities until the end of their next turn. Oh, and it has in parentheses, treat the hero card as if the text box is empty. Seems like a strong arrow. 1 costed, hits for 5. If you got Shiver, give it Dominate. If you're playing against a hero that's big on their hero ability, like Chain's a good example. I think that's a pretty, and even against Briar, which we're going to talk quite a bit about, it's pretty good against Briar. Next, we got a warrior action. Push forward. This is the red one. It's 3 defense. Cost 1. Your next weapon attack gains plus 3. If you have attacked with a weapon this turn, your next attack this turn gains Dominate. This is something you kind of want in Dorinthia. You're trying to hit multiple times with your Dawn Blade. I could see even played in Bolton, because you're hitting, you're like getting after it with the sabers, and even you can get after it with the axes. Honestly, so solid card. I don't know how much play it sees. I don't see it really seeing a lot of play in Bolton per se, because that's a little bit more of a deck that I'm invested in terms of paying attention to. But Dorinthia, it might see some play. It seems like a solid card. It has Go Again too. I don't know if I mentioned that. Next we got a yellow Blessing of Serenity, which is a Guardian instant. It's a 0 cost instant. The next time your hero would be dealt attack damage, it's interesting how that's worded, prevent 2 damage of that source would deal. So basically a 0 costed Oldham Earth Pitch on the yellow. The red would probably prevent 3. Yeah, I don't know if that's necessarily better than blocking for 2 or 3. I'm not sure. I don't see why you would waste the card. Like, it doesn't really have any other utility. Not a huge fan of it. Just on the face. Next we have Blue Riled Up, which is a 3 costed, 5 attack, 3 defense, brute attack action. If you have discarded a card with 6 or more attack this turn, Riled Up gains +1. I don't know. Probably not great. The blue version. This isn't really like a bread and butter card. It's like if you need probably the red one or even the yellow one probably has 6, right? 6 attack. If you need the extra buff for I don't know. If you're playing budget Rhinar, I would probably go with the Riled Up. Next, we have another brute action. This is Predatory Assault. Cost 2. If you have discarded a card with 6 or more attack this turn, Predatory Assault gains Dominate. It has 6 attack, 3 defense. Not a bad rate on Predatory Assault, honestly. In Rhinar, that's kind of what you want to do, discard the card. So in Rhinar, if you had discarded a card with 6 or more attack, it would Intimidate, and then you'd also get the Dominate. I guess if Dominate happens with Intimidate, it's kind of like, who cares? But then again, they could have intimidated a defense reaction out of their hand. I like Predatory Assault. It could probably make some Rhinar decks. Next, we have a foil, Cindering Foresight, which is a 0 cost. This is the red one. It's a wizard action, has 2 defense. If it's not your turn, you may play it as if it was an instant. The next card you play this turn with an effect that deals arcane damage deals that much arcane damage +1. Opt 3. This is a foil rare. Nice. Sounds like a decent card for Kano. Then again, I mean, I'm not really familiar. I played with Kano a little bit on Felt Table, but I've never really played against Kano. Seems like maybe a win more card. I don't know if it's really a bread and butter, but I could see it being pretty useful, especially this red one. Given the extra damage and then opting 3, you really want to set up the top of your deck with Kano, so it's not a bad choice. It's a full rare, so I'll put that over in the pile for the giveaway. Next, we have our first regular rare, which is Rushing River. This is the blue one, costs 0, has 1 attack, 3 defense, has combo. If Torrent of Tempo was the last attack this combat chain, Rushing River gains +1, go again. And if it hits, draw X cards. Then put X cards from your hand on top of your deck in any order, where X is the number of attacks that have hit this combat chain. I don't know if you want to play the blue one. Because, so let's say you did play Torrent of Tempo. 0 for 2 attack isn't the worst. And if it hits is a decent, you would draw at least 1 card. Or at least filter 1 card. I'm not on the blue one as much. I'm sure the red coming in it would start at 3, and then if Torrent Tempo was played, it'd come in for 4. That's a little bit more enticing. But yeah, I'm a little bit off Rushing River. Next we have a brute action attack, which is rare. Barraging Bighorns, the red one, cost 2, has 7 attack, 3 defense. As an additional cost to play it, discard a card at random. While it is defended by less than 2 non-equipment cards, it has go again. So less than 2, not less than or equal to. So they'd have to block with 2 cards from hand or defense reactions in order for it to not get go again. Seems like a pretty decent Rhinar card, honestly. It will activate. So that's interesting. So in Rhinar, if you do discard a 6 attack off this one, you'll get the Intimidate coming in for 7. They have less options to block with. I think solid card. Not really sure if it makes the cut. There might be better options, but I wouldn't be opposed to playing this, honestly. And it's really cool art too. It's got this like kind of like rhino thing going on. But yeah, that's the pack. I'm gonna go put those in the giveaway pile, which I do on Twitter after 4 or so episodes. We're probably coming up on another one soon, maybe 5 episodes, maybe around episode 15. We'll see how big the stack gets. But all right, yeah, well, that's going to get us to the main topic, Let me put this over here, and let me take a sip of my beverage. And let's check in with everybody. Is everybody good? Yeah? I'm glad. I'm good because I'm talking to you guys and you buds. And I also, I forgot to mention at the top of the show, but we hit an estimated audience of 100 on Anchor, which is the app that I use to kind of host my podcast. I don't know what that, I mean, I don't know how they determine that. It might be an average listener kind of thing, but regardless, I'm very excited. I'm very grateful. I'm happy that you guys are listening, and I hope you guys stay, and I hope you guys stick with me. I know that there's tons of content out there, and I'm happy that you're deciding to listen to me, and it's very important to me, and I'm glad. So, thanks again. Now let's get to the topic. UK Nationals was this past weekend in Leeds, England, and as you listened to last week, our friend Aaron over at Go Again Gaming had some segments in between rounds, which was really cool to see. But the UK Nationals, I guess, format was a combination, like the US Nationals this upcoming weekend, a combination of Classic Constructed and Draft. And what we're going to talk about is the Classic Constructed breakdown. This is not the first big tournament of Classic Constructed that we've seen since Tales of Aria being released, because we've had those two Pro Quests. We have had a little bit of info, but this is probably the most premier event that we've had so far, and I think it's worth talking about because U.S. Nationals is also going to be premier and I imagine bigger. And let's dive into it. So first of all, let's look at the format breakdown going into the weekend. The number one played Classic Constructed deck was Bravo, and I don't think that was a big surprise for many people. It commanded about 17.4% of the field, which is a good chunk. This isn't like the Calling Vegas chunk of Chain that Chain had, which was ridiculous and definitely called for a ban. I don't think this is anything too crazy, and I think it was a fair split. So Bravo was 17.4%. Which we could have guessed from the results of the Pro Quest the past month or so. And the next biggest one was Newcomer, Briar, which I'm sure you could guess from the the title of the podcast, that Briar was a big contender in this past weekend's tournament, commanding a whopping 15.1% of the field going into the tournament, which is a large chunk for a brand new hero, which, to be honest, not until Cincinnati did we really see Briar burst onto the field, because even in Dallas-Fort Worth at that Pro Quest, Briar wasn't necessarily out here slaying things. We saw a lot of Prism, we saw a lot of Bravo. The next highest one was Katsu, the Ninja, coming in at 12.8% of the meta. That is also not really surprising. Katsu the great thing about Katsu's just been super consistent, right? Since at least I've been paying attention to Flesh and Blood and Classic Constructed. I've noticed that Katsu's always a contender. One of the great things about Katsu is it can play multiple different styles. It can go aggro, it can go control, it can turtle up. There are tons of things that Katsu can do, which makes it a hard deck to beat for any players not really versed in the matchup. So it definitely takes some skill to learn the Katsu matchup, and it also takes skill to play it, because it is not a easy deck to play. But that being said, was not surprised at all by that still being in the top 3 decks being played. And number 4, and was also not surprising, was Prism, coming in at 10.5%. Now, the interesting thing about Prism, right? 10.5% of the field played Prism, right? 0% of that made it to the top 24 on day 3. That is pretty incredible for a deck that a lot of people view as maybe one of the top tier decks. And we're going to discuss why that is. I think there's a couple reasons for that. I think one of the big reasons is I think the UK, little side note, I think that the great thing about Flesh and Blood, because it's still in paper, it's all, in person for the most part. Obviously, there's webcam games and stuff like that. I think that because of that, we see different metas in different countries, which is really cool. I think we saw during Road to Nats that Bolton Sabres was a huge contender over across the pond, and kind of shook things up for when they were doing Road to Nats. And then obviously after that it started to see play in the States. But so I think the UK is a little bit off of Prism and kind of into, well, we're going to go into Briar, and I think Briar is fast enough that it beats Prism pretty well. And there were also some top performing decks that had a really good matchup against Prism. But after Prism, I wanted to just go over that. Briar was obviously a newcomer from Tales of Aria, and Lexi's a newcomer from Tales of Aria, and that commanded 9.3% of the field going into the weekend as well, which is pretty incredible. 2 new heroes having almost, one had double-digit percentages, and the other one almost, up in the above 9%. And Oldham, only one guy played Oldham, and I don't believe he didn't make top 24. Now that those losses could have come in draft. You always have to take these types of tournaments with a grain of salt, because there is 6 rounds of draft or whatever that they could get. You can go 0-3 in draft 2 times and still not really do that well. And then you lose 1 game in Classic Construct and you're screwed. But that being said, I want to talk about what made top 24. Top 24 was, the day 3. They've done all their rounds of constructed, and they do a draft, and then they go into top 8. So we had 7 Briars make it, which was the highest. So Briar overtook Bravo in terms of percentage on top 24. Next was Bravo, which is to be expected. Still had a high amount. 5 Bravos, 3 Lexis, 3 Katsus, 2 Dash, which we didn't go into Dash, but I didn't really go over the lower percentage guys. 1 Bolton, the only Bolton, I believe, made it all the way to day 3, or top 24. Excuse me. 1 Viserai, which there were only 2 Viserais. 50% of the Viserais made it, and 50% of the Levias made it. Levia, which I think I'm playing in Orlando. Maybe, who knows? If you play me, you never know what I'm going to be playing. But one Levia. I don't know how to pronounce it. I like Levia. I think it sounds really nice. 1 Levia made it out of 2, which is awesome. I was really stoked. And it turns out Levia got 9th place and didn't make it the top 8. Such a shame. I was really rooting for the Levia player. However, I get it. It's tough beats. There are only 8 people can make top 8. But I did look at the list. It's similar to mine, and it's interesting. So I think it makes me feel pretty good about going into the calling with Levia. We also had 1 chain go into the top 24. Actually, I should look at how many chains there were initially. Only 4. So, 25% of the chains made it. It wasn't a huge tournament, right? There were probably like, quick math, maybe like 80 some odd people. It's not huge, right? You only have the qualified players playing minus the people who couldn't make it. So, all that being said, I did look at the Levia players recap of the tournament. He actually didn't run into any. He said he ran into no Briar or Bravo really, and he had a great. It's just a great matchup against Prism, and he ran into a couple Prisms, which was very beneficial, or at least one Prism, and he did okay in draft. But I think it was just one win away from making the top 8. So it would have been cool to see Levi make the top 8. However, let's talk about the top 8. Well, we know Matthew Falks made the top 8 because he won the tournament. And, some people thought he cheated. And I haven't looked at the evidence, but from what I've heard, the evidence is strong. But we can talk about that outside the podcast. Even though I keep bringing it up, what's wrong with me? I don't know. But let me bring up these top 8 players right now. And so we had, let's see, 2 Katsus, the 1 Viserai deck that made it to the top 24 from Push the Point, right? Hamish Krisham, I believe he's from Push the Point, and 4 Briars and 1 Bravo. So the big topic right now is Briar, right? Briar, Lightning Briar. There are some Earth Briar versions which kind of just hit harder and like work on building up your embodiment of Earth tokens, etc., and not really going so wide. But it looks like Lightning Briar is really the deck to beat going into U.S. Nationals, which is totally a big switcheroo, as they would say. It's a huge switcheroo. I don't think a lot of people expected Lightning Briar to be this dominant going into the U.S. National weekend. We'll see how many people go off of what they were originally going to play. I still think we're going to see a lot of Bravo, and I think we're going to see a lot of Prism. Now, hopefully we see some fair and legal play throughout the U.S. Nationals instead of what happened over in the U.K. We also hope that whatever happened over there is resolved and the appropriate action is taken. But it is an interesting thing because at Cincinnati, I believe Brendan Patrick took a Earth Briar to the ProQuest and top 8'd. And now we're seeing all these Lightning decks, which it's so cool because the UK meta is like always, it seems to be like a step ahead. And, it helps that they're a step ahead by having their nationals a week before the U.S. Nationals. It's very interesting. I didn't really have it on my radar. I knew it was good. I didn't know that it would be this good. Basically what the deck it does, just like, going wide. That's all the deck wants to do. It's very just aggro, and if you're familiar with Magic, people have just considered it a burn deck, a red deck wins of sorts, and really interesting. So what are the decks to go into the weekend with then? That's the tough thing. I think it's making me question Levia. However, I think Levia can put on enough pressure to stabilize against Lightning Briar. I feel like if Lightning Briar takes one misstep and can't get those wide turns going anymore, you can beat Briar easily. And one thing to note especially with looking at this meta breakdown, right? You see these Bravos didn't have a great conversion rate compared to the Briars. Is maybe Bravo isn't the maybe Bravo isn't the Guardian to play. Maybe we should be looking at Oldham. Obviously, there was one Oldham didn't make the top 24. Maybe we need to be evaluating how we build Oldham. I think icy frostbite tokens might be a little bit more of the play. It seems to me, especially the Oldham that we had talked about with Drew Cordell when he was on the show, was more of a, controlling, right? Very defensive, and then get your big awakening going for the seismic surge tokens, and hit with big crush attacks, etc. Block with your rampart and your crown of seeds, and which I think is a great plan, but I do think it just doesn't pan out compared to Bravo, though, in terms of that plan. However, I do think if maybe we tweak this Oldham deck to play more Winter's Bites, get cards out of their hands, basically. More Winter's Bites, more Frostbite tokens, maybe. I'm forgetting the common. No, it's not there. I don't have it in front of me right now, but the common that hits for, the red hits for 5 or 6, and if it hits, you get a Frostbite token, play more Snow Unders, etc. And instead of trying to attack their arsenal with, you still want to play Command and Conquer, but maybe no mulches or anything like that. I think that might be the play, and really get in there with your Winter's Wail if need be. I think that might be a good adjustment going into this weekend against Briar. This Lightning Briar, this red deck wins, Briar deck wins, whatever you want to call it. I think that might be the play, because if you get a couple of Frostbite tokens over there, that first attack is going to cost them so much that they can't really go off the way they want to, because it's a lot of reds and yellows in the deck, right? In the Briar deck. So they don't really have the blues to really pay for heavy tax. And I think that could really be the plan. I think you could possibly hope to mise or spike with a completely iced up Oldham, and hopefully just play a bunch of Briar. I think you could totally just get a bunch of free wins, right? I think you could just create the Frostbite tokens, get the cards out of their hands, and they can't do anything. Then they get on the back foot, and then you tear asunder them a couple times, and boom, you win. This is all theory, but I truly think that is the way to beat this Briar deck. Unlike the chain deck, the pretty intense chain deck, I don't think Briar is unbeatable. You just have to know how to pull the rug from underneath of them. And I think that's the way to do it. And I hope to see some of that this weekend. I hope people don't just come in with Lightning Briar and expect to win. I hope people come in with legitimate other heroes that are built to beat Briar. I think that would be really cool, and because there are going to be a decent amount of Briar players, because it's a competitive tournament. You want to play the best deck, and that's a great way to approach competitive play, right? You go in with the best deck. It can't hurt, right? It's the best deck for a reason. However, I think we will see there's always going to be people that want to be different. And I respect that as well, and I try to be that way. I'm playing Levia. It is what it is, and I really enjoy her gameplay. I know the deck the best out of all the decks that I have, and that is a fun way to play. And I think we're gonna see some really cool gameplay because of this UK Nationals results. I think, because people are coming in expecting Briar, the people that have chosen not to play Briar are going to come with really cool tech to face this go wide Briar, and that should be a lot of fun to watch. I'm really excited to. Well, I'll be there, right? So I won't be playing. I'll be playing the Calling, which I do expect to see a lot of Briar in the Calling, but I won't be playing in the nationals, but it'll be interesting to, I hope to get some time to watch some of these players play, and yeah, that will be awesome. But speaking of tournaments, let's talk about food, right? This seems like a bizarre topic, but I do think this is important, and I don't want to tell people how to eat in their everyday lives. I mean, I've had all kinds of different diets. I've eaten like crap. I've eaten healthy. I've tried all different kinds of things. I'm just gonna go based on facts and evidence here. In terms of what can make you perform better during a mentally intense day, which a tournament is, right? So this will be coming out Thursday, around 5. Maybe I'll put it out a little bit earlier, but it is so that will come out for the Nationals players, which their day one starts on Friday. The calling starts on Saturday, so this will apply to your Friday night meal for the calling, and this could apply to any tournament that you play or any kind of mentally intensive activity that you do. It's important to have a well-structured meal the night before. It may sound crazy because you're like, well, it's the night before, right? Who cares? Like I sleep it off and I go through my day. It does matter. And I used to run cross country in high school, and that was always the big thing. Eat a bunch of spaghetti, like have a big old spaghetti dinner like the night before. Usually it should have been like 2 nights before, but you kind of like carb load because you're about to like run like 3 to 6 to 10 miles. You need a lot of carbs so that your body can burn through it and that you can have stamina, right? And this is no different for brain activity. So let's start with, keep it simple, right? You don't have to go crazy. You don't have to go get anything like fancy or insane. Or too expensive. You don't need that. That's not what you need. You need to keep it really simple. And, obviously make sure it tastes good. Taste is important. You don't want to not enjoy this meal. And a lot of it's about asking yourself what you enjoy to eat. So, and another point to the keep it simple thing is you don't want to try anything new, right? You don't want to like really take some big risks. And all of a sudden you're running to the bathroom like in between rounds, or even worse during a round. You don't want to do that. So if you're not a person who eats a lot of spicy food, I would stay away from spicy food. I eat a lot of spicy food. My stomach in general can handle it. I like to put some spice on my stuff, just how it is. But if you don't eat spicy food or any kind of really exotic things to your body, I would steer away from that, because the last thing you need is a round loss because you were late to your table because you're in the bathroom. And you also don't want to be rushing yourself to finish a round because you have to go to the bathroom. So keep that in mind. It sounds crazy, but it really does it does matter. These are small things. These are small hedges. Flesh and Blood's a game of small hedges, and I said that up at the top of the show. And this should be no different, right? In your turns, you're making decisions to get a little bit ahead of your opponent. This is something that could get you ahead, not ahead of your opponent, but it could boost yourself. I don't really like to, we're not here to put down the opponent. We're here to lift ourselves up, right? Because in the end, we're the ones who need to win. We don't need our opponents to lose. We need to win. And this is a way that we can help that. So nothing really spicy, because even if you can handle spice for most of the time, I would stay away from it, because competitive play can be stressful. And for me personally, stress also kind of really can get things kicking in the stomach. And if the spicy food's in there, all of a sudden I'm like, it's just a bad combination. Let's just say that. So keep that in mind. Competitions can be really stressful. So We want to treat our body in a way that can handle that stress in the correct way. So here's a great example of a dinner before you do a big tournament or any intensive activity. I like salmon. Salmon is a great fish. It's tasty. It's easy to make, and most restaurants have it. Right. I looked at the Calling Orlando or U.S. Nationals. The convention center is right by a bunch of different restaurants. And if you're staying in the area, you can go to one of those restaurants, and almost all of them are going to have salmon. Salmon is a great choice. Salmon and some like steamed or like roasted veggies, even sauteed is fine. And then you want like a complex carbohydrate. And I basically just recommend brown or white rice or some whole wheat pasta if you really want. But I'd stay away from a lot of pasta because all those carbs aren't really going to go anywhere when you're sitting down playing a game. You do burn some energy while you're doing it, but it's not like at the level of running a 5K or a 10K. So keep that in mind. And salmon's a great great option because it has omega-3, and omega-3 is I guess it's a protein or vitamin or whatever. I don't know what you would call it, but it helps brain activity. And omega-3 is the night before you're about to use your brain all day, right? So it's a good idea to get some of those omega-3s. Now, I get it. Not everybody likes salmon. There's other good fish to eat, and trout if you like. Sardines if you really like. I like sardines. I like all fish, but I know everybody doesn't like fish in general. And if you don't like fish, there are other options. High protein meals in general are great for your brain activity, but I would keep in mind that you'd want to keep it like a lean meat, right? Grilled chicken, white meat chicken, chicken breast is a great option. Keep that brain fresh. It's high in protein. It's still healthy for you, and it's a great way to get some high amount of protein and without having to consume fish if you don't like it. And I get it. And fish isn't for everyone. So those are some great options. I would even, in terms of other lean meat, you can get some like lean pork out there, like a pork loin or something like that. There are options, and even it's a small amount of like steak or whatever is good. I would avoid the fattier stuff, like hot dogs and hamburgers. I would avoid in general, especially with the buns and stuff like that. It's like a lot of carbs that really aren't going to go anywhere. You want the carbs, like the complex carbs from like rice, and like whole wheat, whole grain stuff. So that's what I would say. Some stuff to avoid. This should be a given, but it's not always a given. Alcohol. I wouldn't drink alcohol the night before a big tournament because, well, for obvious reasons, you can be hungover. But in general, it slows the brain down. You don't want a slow brain going into 9 rounds of classic constructive flesh and blood. You just don't want that. And you definitely don't want to be hungover. Now, listen, I like alcohol as much as the next person. I do it for my day job. I sell beer. And, it is what it is. But I do not want to drink any beer the night before a tournament. Now, we'll talk about after the tournament. That's a whole nother story. We'll get there. But, I would avoid alcohol. I would avoid fried and greasy food. I think fried and greasy food really, personally for me, really upsets my stomach, especially now that I'm getting older because I'm ancient. I'm basically oldum at this point. But in general, it slows your body down. Your body takes, this like, it just takes this really strain to process that stuff. And then just too much carbs. Like you can have too much rice easily. And trust me, I've had too much rice before. I love rice. I eat it with almost every meal. And when that happens, you have so much energy that can't be burnt because you're not doing a high energy activity that just like slogs you down. Like it really makes you heavy, sleepy, So I would avoid that. And then sugary stuff, in general, it's not healthy for you, right? Sugary soda, candy, cakes, etc. Now, that being said, I think there are some desserts you should be able to have the night before. I think some good fruits. And I like dark chocolate. Dark chocolates in general are pretty good. I mean, obviously nothing in excess is good for you ever. So I think fruits and dark chocolate are a fine dessert the night before. You don't have to sweat this too much, but this is just kind of a guideline. But that's going to move us to breakfast. Everybody says breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and I think it's even more so during a tournament. And keep it. This is another one. Keep it simple. Eggs, some fruits, maybe some oatmeal. You want to make sure you have enough calories for the day, but you don't want to overload it, right? You don't want to have a breakfast that's going to make you feel more tired, right? You don't want to have like French toast and pancakes and tons of bacon, sausage. As good as that all sounds, that's going to just make you feel sluggish throughout the day, and that's not going to help you when you're slinging command and conquers at people. It's just it's just not going to help. So I think keep it simple. Eggs are a great choice. Most people like eggs. If you don't like eggs, oatmeal's awesome. Fruits, great choice. And some aren't. OJ's good. Get some vitamin C in there. You're gonna be around a lot of people. It's good to boost that immune system. That's how I would do it, because throughout the day, and we're gonna go over that. I don't think that you're gonna want to have any large lunch or anything like that. And I think having good snacks throughout the day is going to be the play. And for obvious reasons, this is something that a lot of content creators in Magic I know have talked about in the past, just about what kind of snacks you should have. And I think it's pretty simple. I have 3 things written down here. Trail mix. I love a good trail mix. And nice to me a trail mix is, if you have the time, you could make a trail mix with the stuff that you want. Let's less M&Ms in this trail mix, I would say, but raisins, nuts, seeds, anything like that is great. In between rounds, just pop some so you're not like starving, because you don't want to be starving throughout the day. Protein bars are great. I love like a Quest bar. Those are always a good pick me up. I've always found I will probably bring some kind of Quest bar to the calling in Orlando. So you'll see me munching on one of those in between, like, round 3 or 4, kind of when lunch is going. Now, it's up to you if you want to have lunch. It's just tough. Convention center food is so one-dimensional and tends to be greasy and heavy. And I get it. Some people have a faster metabolism than others. I'm not one of those people. I don't have a fast metabolism, and I get it. If you do, you might need to have a more substantial lunch. But I would stick to, in general, something very light for lunch if you have to. Find like a pre-packed salad somewhere. I don't know what's going to be around the calling in Orlando, but in general, all over the place. If you're in Philadelphia, go to a Wawa, get a pre-packed salad. I love Wawa. But nothing. You just don't want anything heavy, because you don't want to, beat a Bravo deck in round 4, go get a cheesesteak, and then come back for round 5 and sit against, a Briar deck, and you're so sluggish and heavy from that cheesesteak that you can't make the right decisions, in the appropriate amount of time. Now, there's always exceptions to the rule. I think there are some people out there that can just slam gross food and just totally perform at the top of their level. I'm not one of those people, and I'm operating on the assumption that in general people can't really do that. So I like to give these little tips, and by all means, feel no obligation to follow these rules. This is just kind of hey, listen, this could be a good hedge for you in a tournament. So that's how I would do snacks. Now, that's going to bring us to the end of the tournament. right? So all right, so let's say you just played a whole day one of the calling, and you didn't day two, right? Sucks. You didn't top 32 or 64, whatever the cut is at this one. It sucks, but I gotta say, it's a achievement, right? You sat down and played a bunch of games of Flesh and Blood, and you did it, right? You won some games, you lost some games. You didn't get to the next level, and that's okay because that's you can't get to the next level every time. You know, we always have work to do on ourselves, and that's okay. I think it's important to celebrate after a tournament. And I think you should feast, right? I'm talking about restricting yourself all these different points, right? Finish the day and go to a nice a restaurant with food that you like, with some friends that hopefully you met at the calling or somewhere else, or if you met up with them for the weekend. Go there, have some food, have some drinks, have a good time, enjoy yourself because you just had a really stressful day of playing a card game. And I think it's important to keep that in mind. Now, obviously, if you make the day two, keep it keep it pretty easy, kind of follow the same rules, get some salmon in there and some omega-3, some lean protein. And then the next day, that night you really celebrate because, hey, you made day two, you made day three of the nationals, whatever. I think that is important because one thing with a lot of diets in general I've found, and I've been on them, is that you restrict yourself so much that you can't really enjoy food. And I think food is there to be enjoyed. And when you're deciding to have this dietary restriction with a tournament, right? You said, all right, I'm gonna make sure I get my omega-3s. So I'm gonna make sure I have a high protein. I'm gonna have complex carbs, yada yada yada. You deserve to kind of, all right, well, I did that, and maybe I deserve the big steak. I deserve a fried chicken sandwich. I got through that. I did what I need to do to my body for this weekend, and now I should reward myself. It's don't eat like that all the time. I mean, unless you want to. Again, I'm not here to tell you how to eat all the time, but it is important to feast, and I think feasting is such an important part of humanity. It always has been, and I think we as humans should do it. Feasting and celebrating, it is an important thing. These tournaments are a great gathering of people with common interests. I think that you should meet these people, and you should go out with them and enjoy each other's company. Have some good food, have some good drink, do what you need to do, decompress from the long day of slinging Art of Wars and blocking with your Arcanite skull caps. It's important. I mean, it's the the grind can be so much sometime, and you really ought to really treat yourself like a king. I don't know, like a bravo, like a guardian. But that's just something I wanted to talk about because it is something that I've found in the past. I used to struggle with. I would be up late with friends, before a tournament. We eat like crap, and the next day I'd feel like crap, and I don't think I would ever perform to the top of my ability. Could be a combination of things, the diet part, or sleep is obviously very important. I shouldn't have to say that to anyone. Sleep is super important, and I know that sometimes the night before an event, it is very hard to sleep. I personally like to pack a few melatonins. You guys do you, but that's just that's where I fall in all this, and I hope you guys found it useful. This is something that just it felt pretty topical for going into a big tournament weekend. 2 huge events at the same venue, U.S. Nationals, the Calling Orlando. Should be a lot of fun. I hope to see some of you guys there. If you want to, say hi or just hang out, I'll be there. You guys can reach out to me on Twitter, twitter.com/freshbudspod. You can join the Discord. I've named it appropriately, The Buds. You guys can join the Discord, and, you can reach out to me there. I'm on Discord all the time. I get it on my phone. It's a problem. I'm probably on there too much. But please, if you're there, let's hang out. Let's say hi. Let's talk about some Flesh and Blood. I'm super excited about it. This is going to be a great weekend. I've been looking forward to it since I saw that it was announced. I was like, I'm going to do it, and I'm so happy that I'm doing it. And yeah, so I think that's going to do it for the episode. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope that you guys say hi to me in Orlando if you're there, and I hope that everybody has a great time. And if you're not going to be there, that's okay. I know FOMO can be pretty intense sometimes. I felt it during the Cincinnati and Dallas-Fort Worth for sure, and Vegas. But there will be more tournaments. Flesh and Blood's off to a great start. I hope that the Northeast gets some, because obviously I'm from the Northeast. The Meadowlands would be great. I'm going to keep saying that until it happens. But don't worry about the FOMO. There'll be more things. There'll be more events. We got the skirmish season coming up. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're having a good time. Briar's going to be a strong force this weekend. I can just feel it. And I hope that people bring some awesome tech to beat it. I would love to see some Oldham, smash some Briar this weekend, personally, because as you guys can probably tell, I'm a big Oldham fan, and I wish he was just performing a little bit better. But excited to play some Levia, and I guess I'll leave you guys with some food. I've been liking to talk about. I mean, I talked about food for half this episode, but a food that I really enjoy in my life is, well, I mentioned cheesesteaks earlier. I love a good cheesesteak. I live in Jersey, but my mom lives out in Philly. I went to school in Philly for a year or so. I love a good cheesesteak. My favorite has always been Jim's on South Street. It might be a little hack to say, at least it's not Pat's and Gino's, but Jim's on South Street, go get it. I like the Whiz Wit. You got the cheese whiz with the onions on there, and sometimes I'll throw some mushrooms on too. And man, oh man, this sandwich is divine. It is the perfect amount of grease, the perfect amount of gross cheese whiz, and you go in there. And, basically they won't take any nonsense from you. They're just like, what do you want? And you just tell them, and they give it to you. And it's awesome. They're cooking it right in front of you. Oh, man. And now I'm really craving a cheesesteak. And I'll be at PAX Unplugged. Actually, I should mention that. I'll be at PAX Unplugged next month. It's in the second weekend of December. So if anybody's going to PAX Unplugged, let me know. Hopefully they have some Flesh and Blood stuff going on. I just decided to go just in case, and there's some Magic stuff too, which I enjoy, and I love board games in general. Yeah, that's gonna do it. You guys have a great weekend if you're not going to Orlando, and if you are, I hope to see you there. And please eat your omega-3s. I don't know. Eat whatever you want, but I hope you guys kind of take my advice. If you really want to try it out, can't hurt. It definitely can't hurt. So, with that being said, I will say goodbye.